Welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and once again, just as a reminder that the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you by Stance Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Stance is one of the greatest sporting goods stores in Hudson County, and is proud to be our main sponsor. And with me today is a very, very special guest. Is probably, arguably, the best baseball player to ever come out of Jersey City. He went from St. Anthony High School, where he had a very good career. His career got better and better as he moved along the ranks. What was it like for you as a boy growing up in West New York?
In West New York, well, let me say this. I had two brothers and a sister, and we all went to the parochial school at St. Joseph's, and it was a nice school, and high school in West New York at the time. There was three high schools that were available to us. One was Memorial High School, public school,
Right.
high school, good athletic programs there, and I think most of the athletes, however, were in shop classes and things like that. It was not exactly a college prep school. The parish, St. Joseph's High School, was a nice small high school, parochial school, taught by the nuns. It was a good school, pleasant, but it was not overly demanding, I don't think. And then there was, of course, St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City. So let me tell you a little story about how I wound up at St. Peter's Prep out of West New York.
Please.
My brother Ed had gone to St. Joseph's, played both baseball, basketball, eventually became college player at St. Michael, Vermont, and then he was athletic director there for many years before he passed away recently, and had a wonderful career at St. Michael, Vermont. So he went to St. Michael's, but he came out of St. Joseph's High School. And I was 2 years behind him. My sister was in between us, but he was 2 years ahead of me. And one evening, I was an eighth grader at St. Joseph's Parochial School. And as I'm sitting out in the kitchen with my dad talking about this and that, 7 o'clock on a weekday night, my older brother Ed comes walking through the kitchen on his way out the side door, and my father stops him and says, "Where are you going?" My brother says, "Well, I'm going out to meet with my buddy." He says, "Tonight?" He says, "Yeah, tonight." And he says, "Did you do your homework?" "Yes, I did my homework." "Where did you do your homework?" "I did it in study period." And out the door went my older brother, and my father turned to me and said, "You're not going to that school." So I was left with only one choice. St. Peter's Prep, an hour 2-bus trip to Jersey City and back each day, and a school known for academic demanding and also for strict discipline. So I wound up through the accident of my brother telling my father where he did his homework, I wound up at St. Peter's Prep, which was, I think, the greatest blessing I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's how I wound up at the Prep. Now remember, the Prep at that time, they had no gymnasium.
No.
No gymnasium.
All right. So, before you went to St. Peter's Prep, what was it like growing up in West New York, and was it a very good athletic town for you to develop your athletic skills? And did you play all three sports like most kids did?
Okay, it was an excellent town to grow up in for many reasons, especially the athletic programs. For example, I played, I think I probably saw it, I played basketball in the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade in 2 leagues sponsored by the town. And they were very good competitive leagues. That's really where I got my start in basketball anyway. We also played football. I played 1 year with a little midget league team, got whacked around a couple times and said, "Geez, I don't like this sport." I didn't stick with football. Baseball, yes, I played baseball wherever I could play baseball. But at the time I played high school basketball and baseball.
Okay.
I loved them both, and put football into the spectator category.
Okay. And baseball, I guess, was a far more popular sport back then than basketball was, correct?
No, not in West New York.
No? Oh, okay.
A really fine team. Matter of fact, one of the earliest players there, I remember, was a guy named John Mankin.
Sure.
Who I think about 1945 or so graduated
Correct.
But anyway, we had some the great Memorial High School teams in those days, and basketball was really the heart and soul of high school athletics at the time. Had some good football teams later. Memorial High School, Joe Coviello was the coach.
Sure.
The coach put in a single wing type spread. They called it something like a spread T formation or something, but he beat just about everybody in the county. He was a great coach, nice guy.
Sure, great guy, great man.
Football was big then, and baseball. We always had good baseball teams. I played in the American Legion team in West New York.
Okay.
And had a fellow there on our team who wound up as far as Louisville in the International League before he got hurt and couldn't continue on. But he was headed for the Major League. Bob Aiello.
Oh, Bobby Aiello, the police chief. He was a longtime police chief in West New York.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Good man. Good man. Yeah.
Bubsy Aiello. Good athlete.
Yeah, he was a very, very good man. So, all right. But was basketball always your favorite sport growing up?
Oh, I guess so. It was certainly the thing I did, when I had nothing else to do. So, baseball was fine, but we didn't have the exact same kind of opportunity. My older brother built a little basketball court on the corner of where we lived. There was a lot down there. I don't know who owned it. We didn't know who owned it. But he decided to put up a basket down there. And he did. He put up a 2x4 beam. We put up a square backboard. And we started to shoot hoops. We didn't have nets or anything. We just had a hoop. And so we played as often as frequently as possible. And my mother loved it because we were in view of her from the kitchen window. She could yell at us and bring us in for dinner when she wanted. So I would say basketball started in the 6th grade and I never left it.
Okay, what street was that you grew up on, Father?
Fillmore Place, right off at that time it was 17th Street. I think it became 61st Street later on.
Oh, okay.
But it's Fillmore Place.
All right.
It's off of Bergenline Avenue. It used to be Bergenline Avenue and the Boulevard.
Okay.
Along the Hudson River.
All right. Now, let me ask you a question. Was there a sense of pride, do you remember growing up, about James J. Braddock being the heavyweight champion of the world? You remember, was there
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much. His one of his sons and two of his sons and one of his daughters. I think he had 2 children.
Yep.
They all came to St. Joseph's grammar school around our time. And I believe maybe it was the sister who was in my grammar school class, but one of the Braddocks was in my grammar school class. Yeah.
Yeah, because I figured he was born on he was born in New York City, but they moved when he was an infant to 60th Street and Broadway, and so I figured that's really close to St. Joe's, where St. Joe's of the Palisades School was. So I figured, by that point, heavyweight champion of the world, he must have been revered in the neighborhood. No, right?
Yes, correct. Yes, he was. Yeah.
Okay.
After he won.
Of course, yeah. About 10 years after he won, but still, he was, he was still. You can't take that away. Yeah, and some really good bad prep student that you didn't throw out when he was a freshman wrote a book about James J. Braddock. See, so but I wrote a book about Braddock about I guess about 8-9 years ago when the movie came out, and so that's. Yeah, so that's my only published book so far was about the life of Braddock. That's how I knew it so much. All right, so what was it like to like you said, to take the 2-hour bus ride from West New York to downtown Jersey City on a daily basis just to go to high school?
Yeah, well, as a kid, I was just 13 years of age, I guess. I hadn't been riding buses too much, so this was a new adventure in life for me. I started as a prep, and I was not the happiest camper around because they had an awful lot of work to do.
Sure.
And I still remember, my father said to me now, he said, I'm going to take me to prep. He said, that's a college prep school. You want to go to college after you finish. He says, now, the people that I've met in life who can speak on their feet and speak in public are people who have had good education and are very confident when they speak. And if you want to get someplace in life, you got to be able to speak on your feet. So make sure you join a debate team when you get down there. The debate team. I was talking to a crowd. So I said, well, okay. Well, sure enough, I get there a few days, and they put out notices. Anybody wants to join this team, that team. Anybody wants to do this, that. Show up at 3 o'clock at classical 280 or something. So I go, oh, that's a good thing. I got to do this. So I go and I sign up for the debate team. And I go up to the classroom, and it's right overlooking the schoolyard where we had the basketball hoops,
Okay.
And so the English was the suggestion scholastic who ran the debate team. So I'm sitting and he's talking about what the debate team's like and so on. I'm scared just about the debate team, much less anything else. And I'm looking out the window and I can see these guys shooting hoops down there. So I'm saying to myself, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. I want to be down there. And sure enough, I got the gumption to tell my father, Dad, I really don't want to be on the debate team. I want to try out for the freshman basketball team. So he says, well, okay, but remember, you're going to have to do that someday. So you may put it off for now, but you do what you want to do now, but eventually you're going to have to learn how to speak on your feet. So that was the end of that. I joined the freshman team, and that was an experience in itself here because we had no gym. The varsity used the Collins Memorial Auditorium up at St. Peter's College.
Wow.
And they used it part-time with the college. The JV and the freshmen were left on their own. So we practiced outside, of course, and where the parking lot is now, where we had about 4 hoops at least for intramural basketball. We practiced out there until the weather got cold, and then we'd go indoors. And if we could use the boys' club or someplace like that, we would use that for 2 hours in the afternoon after class. Otherwise, you can't believe this, but we went down to the locker room and we learned to weave, the 5-man weave.
Yeah.
And then somebody would take a shot at the number of the lock is there. Maybe the locker room, the locker was row A, locker 7. So A7 is the basket. And we traveled the first year.
Oh my gosh.
To say, our team was not overly successful, but we did all right. We enjoyed it. Second year, I'm on JV. Same thing. We were not too bad, but we had some guys who could look like they could play, but we didn't have any place to practice, so we weren't very good. And my junior year, we were terrible. Our varsity team was for the birds. We never practiced. We couldn't practice. We didn't have a home court. But at the same time, the state of New Jersey had issued a legal rendering that every high school had to have a recreational area for its students. St. Peter's didn't have a recreational area, so they had to start a gym drive to raise money for a gym.
Okay.
And sure enough, Father Chalot was in charge of that drive. As it turned out, they raised, so they got enough money to build that gym that stands now, which probably will be imploded soon, but right now it's still going. So they built it. It was very nice. When they built it, it was very nice. So now this is the start of my senior year, and we've not had much success. We had a few kids who could play and so on. And so on opening day, we have a practice there, but we also have a new coach, Pete Caruso. We're still playing with the algebra teacher who also coached basketball. He took a new job selling automobiles in Long Island, I think. So at any rate, now we got a gym, and it's beautiful. It feels good. Everybody's happy. And so we practiced with Mr. Caruso, and he did a good job preparing us with simple, fundamental things about basketball. And we had on our team, our starting team, his name was 4 Irishmen and 1 Italian.
Okay.
And so we start the season, and we go 2-2, I think, 2-3. But something is lacking on this team. We're just missing something. Well, the coach decides to remove the Italian kid. Now, he's a coach. He's Italian himself. So he asked the poor kid, the Italian kid, to sit down. He puts him down. He went. Another Irishman. And then we went off 18 straight victories.
Oh, my gosh.
Including victories over everybody in South Hudson. But he was the team. It was Doherty. Excellent. He went to John Carroll eventually. Jerry Sullivan, he went to St. Peter's College. John Clone.
Oh, gosh, sure. And became the athletic director at the Air Force Academy, correct?
Air Force.
Right.
It's named after him.
Yep.
On the floor there, you see his name. John Clone. Donnie said so. We had really, it was a good team of kids that grew pretty much over the years. This turned out to be with the 5 of us a good team. So, as I say, we ran off 18 state victories. We won the South Hudson championship, and we played in the Hudson County championship game at Dickinson High School against Togo Palazzi Union Hill High School.
Oh my gosh! How wild was that you played against Togo? Yeah.
Well, I think it was the first time St. Peter's had been in the championship, the county championship game. I don't think that the school has ever played the county championship unless it was prior to World War II. Maybe.
Right.
At any rate, so we played them at Dickinson, and the game went into overtime, and we won in overtime. So we were now county championships, something that never happened before for South Hudson and for St. Peter's Prep, which got us invitations to different places. But we did play in 2 Catholic state championship teams. One was a league sponsored by the New Jersey Scholastic Interscholastic Athletic Association for all schools.
Okay.
Catholic schools. That was us. And then for another one sponsored by a Catholic group, also state championship. We also won that state championship. So we won county championship, 2 state championships, and were invited to the Eastern States Catholic Invitational Tournament in Newport, Rhode Island.
Wow.
And
that was huge then, right?
Yeah, nobody. Our record, by the way, at the end of the year was 30 victories and 6 defeats. So it was a great year for us. But anyway, we played in the ESCIT. That had the great players in it over the years. Tommy Haynes played in it. Tom Gola played in it. A lot of very good college players played in that Eastern State Catholic up in Newport, Rhode Island. And we finished, we lost to Regis in the final game by 2 points, I think it was. And so that was the end of my high school career. But it was something when I look back on it, I said, how do we go from being so miserable in junior years to so good in senior year? So it just shows, new coach, whole new attitude, people all looking forward to doing something worthwhile, and we did.
Okay.
That was kind of our high school career, which was, for me, and for all of us. Jerry Sutherland went to St. Peter's College, John Clone went to the Naval Academy, Vince Doherty went to John Carroll, he was originally scheduled to go to Georgetown.
Okay.
Myself, Donnie Finn went to St. Peter's.
Mm-hmm.
So we all went to college on, athletic scholarships, actually, that for. And, of course, we were young, too. We were kids that started 13 and graduated at 17.
Okay.
So, anyway.
How did Holy Cross come into the picture, Father? How did was there a package deal? You and Togo Palazzi going together, or how did the Holy Cross?
No, Togo was a year behind.
Oh, Togo's a year behind you. Okay. All right. So how did?
Story unto itself. I'll get to that.
Okay.
But the story of my recruitment wasn't a glorious one. I was about 160 pounds. I was about 6 feet 5, 6 feet tall, whatever. Just 16 years of age. I graduated when I was just turned 17. I think I finished my high school career at age 16. And playing in the Eskin, the coach, Buster Sherrick from Holy Cross, had been told, I believe, by Father Shalou, who knew a priest at Holy Cross, that we have a kid down here who can play pretty well, and you might be interested. And somehow or other, that word must have gotten to Buster Sherrick, but he came down to the Eskin tournament one day, and just one of our games, and it just happened to be the second game, every game we played there, and it was our very best game of the whole year. And I had a particularly good game, so after the game, he talked to me, chatted a little bit. There's another side story there. Pete DeRusso was the character, and the trainer for Holy Cross was a guy who happened to be his sergeant in the army.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay.
And nobody wanted to go out the court martial with the whole lot. So anyway, their trainer, and then he almost screwed me up because he telling out my future coach that I wouldn't go there. But anyway, that's a whole other story. And so he was interested, and Pete Grocer was also a very personable, outgoing guy who knew a lot of people. A lot of people knew him. And he said to me one day, "Would you like to go to Notre Dame?" I said, "Hey, Coach, that'd be nice, yeah." So he said, "Well, I'm going to coach Ox, what was his name? Not Ox Grocer, but anyway, he had been at Holy Cross. He was coaching Notre Dame at the time. And he arranged for me to meet with him and so on and so forth. So I did meet with him, and the coach said, "Well, we're going to look at your grades and we'll see it." But I knew I was low on the list of Notre Dame because my grades were okay. That was the problem. But he probably had a couple of players ahead of me waiting to see if they did or didn't come to Notre Dame. But maybe coming down the line he would come back to me. But he did not. So the end result was Dr. Sherry said to me, "Look, I got 5 days. I'm going to give you 5 days. You let me know at the end of the 5th day. I'm not going to wait beyond that. I have to move on. So you let me know." I said, "Okay, Coach, I will do that. Within 5 days, I will call you back. Yes or no." "Thank you." So he offered me this 4-year scholarship.
Wow.
And I can still remember him saying, "All I can offer you is room and board, 4 years of good basketball, room and board, tuition, room and board, and green grass and a good education. That's all I can offer you." So you mean to say, in those days, money under the table was not an unusual thing for a good high school athlete to receive.
Right.
So he was talking a little about that. But anyway, so I said, "Okay." Then one of those days, those evenings, we're sitting down at a table. My older brother's there, my mom and dad, of course, my sister, my younger brother. And we're sitting, and the subject revolved around where I was going to go to school. So I told him, "Well, yeah, I'd really like to go to Notre Dame. Every Catholic kid likes to go to Notre Dame."
Right.
So I said, so my older brother, his father, he was at this time a sophomore, St. Michael was the mom. He says, "Earle, look," he said, "if I were you, Notre Dame, you want Notre Dame, and Holy Cross wants you. If I were you, I would take that school that wants you."
Good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Notre Dame. I'm out the window. And he's saying, "Look, they want you." So it didn't take me long. And the next morning I woke up and said, "I got to call Mr. Sherry and tell him I'm headed to the Holy Cross." That's how it happened. Anyway.
Okay. All right. So at that point, Holy Cross was just getting to be a national power, right? You were just on the cusp of becoming, well known.
1947, they won a national championship.
Right.
Cousy was on the bench. Cousy was a freshman that
Yep.
year. And in the NCAA tournament, he hardly made, I think he made 4 or 6 points the whole tournament. He didn't play much as a freshman.
Right.
That's a whole other story in itself. So, yeah, I was a freshman when Cousy was a senior, and I was a senior when Heinsohn was a freshman.
Well, see, so you bridged the gap between the two of them.
Yeah, that
So.
locates me in the Holy Cross picture.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so you go to Holy Cross in 1949, and they're just, they won the national championship 2 years before in the NCAA tournament, which was not the same as the NIT back then, right? The NIT was a bigger time tournament, correct? Okay. But you decide that you're going to go to Holy Cross, and how tough was that of a decision for you to be a kid from West New York going all the way up to Worcester, Massachusetts?
Well, it wasn't so much the distance. I went to Camp Notre Dame in Vermont as a counselor for 1 or 2 years there. But it was a total, change of mentality, I think, from the college idea of a basketball player in college those days and its relationship to academics and Holy Cross persisted in the academic emphasis.
Right.
And we had we had a good freshman team, by the way. We could not play varsity. We had to stay as freshmen playing a freshman team. No freshman allowed to play varsity in those days.
Sure.
So we had a good freshman team, 17-0. We played Penn schools and other college freshman teams. And so we had some pretty good players on that team. And of course, Couz's team was running rampant there at the time. They won something like 26 straight games, and then they lost a few at the end. Didn't do much in the tournament. But anyway.
Now, when you first got to Holy Cross, could you see that Bob Cousy was becoming Bob Cousy? You know, like at that point. And the other thing, too, I wanted to ask you. The term point guard, they say that it was almost invented with Bob Cousy. But was he truly a point guard before he almost revolutionized the game?
Yeah, he was very, very special. Matter of fact, we loved scrimmaging against him as freshmen, because the freshmen always scrimmaged the varsity about 3 times a week, and we loved scrimmaging him, and we loved playing against him and some of the other guys in the team. But we would actually, when we played freshman games, the varsity would be playing right after us. We would hurry down, take the shower to get up and see what Cruz would do.
Okay.
We didn't want to miss any of the first part of the game. So as a senior, he was #1 player in the United States of America.
Right.
One college player, voted that way. And he was that good. I mean, he was wonderful. We used to say, how did he do that?
Yeah.
He hit a guy with a pass right over his head or something and through his legs. Yeah, so that was a special treat. And when you went to practice, when you went to a game, you felt, I'm in upper, rarefied air here with Cousy and his team. So it was a great privilege. He was didn't stand aloof, of course. But if you've seen that documentary, you've seen his whole history. He's never intended to play pro ball. There's no way to be playing pro ball.
Right. No.
But he was every bit a point guard. He was wonderful on the fast break, which was really the trademark of the Celtics. And he could run a fast break. The thing about him was he brought everybody into the game. Everybody could get into the game. Drive to the right, hit somebody in the left. Drive to the center by the foul line, hit somebody underneath. Always a pass in the right time at the right time, but to score himself.
Right. Okay.
So he was everything you wanted to see in a player.
All right. Well, we'll be back with the second half of our interview with Father Earle Markey in just a second, but after this word from Stan Sports Center. Stan Sports Center is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stan's has been proudly supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at stansportsctr.com. That's stansportsctr.com, and check them out on social media for their latest creations. And just as a reminder, that if you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast when you go to visit Stan's, you'll get a 10% discount on everything retail that's in the store. So that's not a bad deal. 10% off on anything that's in the store, just mentioning the Hudson County Sports Podcast. And Stan's is located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number is 201-798-4466. Say hello to my friends down there, Louie and Todd, and of course Danny, and mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast, and they'll take care of you, give you a 10% discount. That's Stan Sports Center, our corporate sponsor of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. Okay, we're back with our second half with Father Earle Markey. And Father, at that point, Holy Cross is now one of the top, most recognized programs in the country. And, you're selling out Boston Garden. You come into Boston, you come into Madison Square Garden, and you're selling that place out too. Everybody wanted to go see the Celtics play. I mean, the Crusaders play. They didn't want to go see the Boston Celtics play at that time. The biggest draw was Holy Cross. What was that like for you to be a player, to be part of that attention that was drawn to the College of Holy Cross?
Yeah, well, you got it right. First of all, the Celtics were just coming into their own. They were still second rate, you might call it, professional New York or Buffalo or Midwest. So the Holy Cross was the kind of a thorn in the side of Red Auerbach as he began. And he tried to show that the pros are better than the college players. Now remember, we didn't have Cousy anymore.
Right.
And Camp and the others, so we had you might call a less distinguished, less prominent team. And he would practice. We would have a scrimmage against the Celtics once during the preseason. Okay, and Red Auerbach admitted this later on. He used it to try to show people, and the press especially, that the pros are better than the college kids. Okay, and he did that, and that was the purpose of his scheduling. And our purpose, of course, was to play against the best we could play to see how see if we could measure up. So the Celtics then began with Cousy. People began to take notice. They went to see Cousy play as a college player. Now they couldn't see him play as a pro. And after a few years, they get Russell and they get Havlicek. And so now they're a really great team. So
right.
We were at the end, you might say, of the college and at the beginning of the Celtics aura. So
right.
It's a kind of transition which is natural, but had its moments of disagreement between pros and college people.
All right, now watching that documentary, which was called Purple Rain, the REIGN, which was done by Rich Kaner, who's also a Hudson County guy. What a great documentary this was. It said in it that Red Auerbach didn't want Bob Cousy. He thought that Cousy was, quote, too fancy. And the only way that the Celtics ended up getting Cousy was that they had to draw his name out of a hat. And that's how they ended up getting him. But Red Auerbach didn't want him. And is that pretty accurate?
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And Cousy, even to this day, said Red changed his attitude when he found out that with Cousy as a point guard, he could do some damage in the NBA. No, but that was exactly right. Cousy was drafted by the Tri-City Hawks. I think it was
Tri-City Hawks, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and when they disbanded because of a financial problem, they had three great players, Cousy, Andy Phillips, and Max Lazowski, I think was the other one.
Yep.
And they put the three names in the hat, and they picked out the names, and the Celtics were the last one to choose, and who was left in the hat? Bob Cousy's name was left in the hat.
Boy, that is an absolute freak. That's how he ended up with the Celtics. Okay, now you got to tell the story about how Togo Palazzi ends up going to Holy Cross. Togo being a year younger than you, and from Union Hill in Union City. And Buster Sheary told you that what your job was in terms of trying to recruit Togo was to go take Togo to the movies. And is that maybe the best recruiting move in the history of Holy Cross, that you went and took Togo to the movies and the rest was history?
Yeah, well, let me give you the whole picture.
Go ahead.
Togo was one of the top 5 high school players in the country then.
And he'd be the first one to tell you that too, right?
Yeah. But he was absolutely, and he was being recruited by everybody. He tells these great stories. He played in what would be called McDonald's All-American game now. It was a game in Paducah, Kentucky. High school seniors, the best high school seniors in the country, and all the college coaches would go there. And Togo
in Paducah, Kentucky, they held the All-American game in Paducah, Kentucky. Doesn't sound like it's an absolute resort city, you know. Like now they hold it in San Diego, and you know then it's Paducah, Kentucky. Yeah. No. Okay.
I'm sure that the old Kentucky coach he was handed to that
Adolph Rupp, probably, sure.
Yeah, Rupp. Yeah. Anyway, Togo was one of the top players in the game. He was top. I think he got a trophy for being the second best or something.
Right.
And he's about to go home, and one of the coaches, I think it was Bradley, said to him, "Hey, Togo, you going home by commercial flight?" He said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "Well, look, we got the team playing here. Maybe we'll take you. We could fly you back and do it, you know." "Oh, really? Yeah, sure. Why don't you do that? Come with us." So Togo gets on the plane. He got up and they're flying back, and the guy looked down and said, "Oh, it's Butler University, or wherever it's from. I forget what it's from. And why don't we stop down there and pay a visit?" So he was like, kidnapping Togo, bring him to that place. And Togo, in the meantime, Buster Sherry had talked to Togo's mother. Now, this is the key. And so Buster went to see, Togo was at Duke University, being recruited by Duke, when Buster Sherry went down to see Mrs. Palazzi in Union City, New Jersey.
Okay.
And so he goes to visit there, and she greets him, and he introduces himself and says, "I'm here to talk to you about Togo." And said, "Oh, Togo's down in Duke now." And so telling Buster, forget about it, he's down in Duke. And Buster says, "Well, that's okay. He couldn't get into Holy Cross anyway."
Oh.
He said to the mother, "Yeah." So she said, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean?" He said, "Well, he's missing 2 math courses, and I looked at his transcript, and so then she gets kind of interested in this. This guy is interested in Togo's academic program, So, long story short, they agreed to come to Holy Cross for a visit. And I'm the one that says, "I want you to be the host for Togo when he comes." And I was playing softball on the field down here with 8 of my classmates. Good guys, one couple of baseball players and things like that. And so Buster comes onto the field, with freshman field down here, this little field off to the side where we play softball. It's about April, middle of April, whatever. And Buster comes over, talks to me, and I say, "Hey, Togo, how you doing?" We get talking, chat. We know each other pretty well. And I always liked Togo. I liked him from the very beginning. He's a good guy. So Buster said to me, "Now, I want you to take him to the movie and get him a hamburger." He gives me a $5 bill, right? Now, that's not much, but the movie was 50 cents. so that gives me 10 spots in the movie.
Okay.
So I bring everybody to the movie.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. All right.
All the guys are talking to him, and they liked him because he was a great athlete, great basketball player, and they all enjoyed that. So anyway, comes the last day of he was there for 2 or 3 days, and they're about to leave, okay? They're about to leave to go back to Union City. And Togo is saying to me, "Oh, when do we leave? When do we get?" And he said to me, "Earle, I really like the school. But I don't know." Well, what he was trying to say was, "They want you to study here."
Yeah.
That was not on his mind at that time.
No.
He's talking about college, but that was not on his mind. Only the hoops was on his mind at that time. So anyway, here comes now Father. We had a priest here was a very outgoing type guy, and he sees the people sitting around in the reception area. He comes over, Father Barry, Barry. He goes with a list, Father Barry, and he says, "Oh, son, Togo, hello, Father, how are you? What are you doing here?" "Well, I'm here with my mother." I said, "Oh, wonderful. Mrs. Palazzi." It's very nice. And then he finds out, well, they're trying to recruit this kid. And so Father Barry says, "Oh, Togo, you come here, I'll take good care of you, keep an eye on you." Well, he didn't have the opportunity to keep an eye on him. He had nothing to do with the school. The kids coming in. But anyway, Mrs. Palazzi liked that. Okay. So now it gets to the final conclusion. And Buster Sherry turns to Mrs. Palazzi and says, "Mrs. Palazzi, if your son comes to Holy Cross, I will make of him a student, a gentleman, and an All-American basketball player." And she says, "Oh," she turns to Togo. I said, "Togo, that's exactly what you want."
Yeah.
And she was impressed by the fact that Buster's telling what they will do for Togo, not what Togo will do for Holy Cross.
Okay.
That's the key. So finally, because there's some discussion takes place, and I can still see Togo's face to this day. His mother says to him, "Togo, you go down south with money in your pocket, you'll get in trouble. You come here, Father Barry will keep an eye on you, and Mr. Sherry will make you an All-American basketball player, a gentleman, and a student. That's what you want. That's what I want. You come here."
All right. And that was the end of that, right?
His face just dropped, So anyway, but we had to keep recruiting him all during his freshman year. But then finally, when he got guy, so Holy Cross says the best thing ever happened to him and all that.
Absolutely.
That's the story of Toto.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great story, son. And hopefully I'll get a chance to hear that from him directly. Okay. So you were there from 49 to 53, and in 1953 you were drafted by the Celtics. Okay. You had a chance to go play pro basketball. Tell everybody what happened there to made you change your entire life and to go after a vocation.
Well, in '53, if anybody graduating college, if they want to go to graduate school, went in the Army.
Right.
You had to serve 2 years of service, number one. All right, so that was the first thing. I'm drafted in fourth round. This Red Auerbach is the coach, and Paul Brown, a very nice gentleman, is the owner.
Yep.
And I get a nice letter from Mr. Brown saying, as you know, Earl, you've been drafted by the Celtics, which means you are the possession, you are the possession of the Boston Celtics if you wish to play in the NBA. So I'm saying to myself, I got to think this thing out. I got 2 years. I know I'm going to get drafted. I'm not going to go. I had no way to get out of a draft, actually.
Drafted into the military, not drafted by the NBA draft. Drafted by the military. Right. Yeah. Right.
Go in the Army for 2 years.
Right. And that was and we were in the Korean War at that time, correct? Right.
And that was just ended.
Okay. All right.
So then, so I got that's the other one thing, and the backcourt for the Celtics those years were two guys who were future Hall of Famers.
Right, Cousy and Bill Sharman. Right.
Yeah. So where am I going to go? I'm going to be a deep end of the bench. I do pick the team, right?
Okay.
I mean, I get some playing time, but it was not like they're falling all over me to get me to come and play with the Celtics. So there were several things. And a matter of fact, at one time, and that year, the first year that I would have been on the team, they had to hold up the payment of their salaries for about 2 or 3 weeks because they didn't have money to pay the salaries.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
Things were tough in those days.
Okay.
You know, they would travel down south and they stop in little towns just to make money during the season, the preseason, to pay for their expenses during the regular season because they weren't selling out. There was no television, or very little television. So pro ball was not a big thing. I'm sitting there saying, you know, all my friends are going to either law school or business school or the medical school, and I'd be playing basketball for 2 years. And when I finish, a couple of years anyway, when I finish, I'll want to go to graduate school. And they'll all be lawyers, doctors, and everything by that time, you know.
Right.
So.
Now, let me ask you a question. How much did the Celtics offer you in a contract? Do you remember?
They never offered me a contract.
They never offered you a contract. Oh my gosh. Okay, so all they said that you were drafted and that you.
You make the team, you get a contract.
Oh, okay. All right. So there was no guarantee. Okay. So
I think if he got $8,000 a year, he was doing well. So
wow.
He used to tell me he got 15. I don't think he did.
No.
I think it was less than that.
All right. So correct me if. All right. So here's the.
salary Cousy ever made was $35,000 as a player.
Oh my gosh.
More than that when he coached Cincinnati for a few years.
Right. And then, so did you correct me if I'm wrong? That you asked, not Red Auerbach, but you asked Mr. Brown if it could be possible for you to go to law school and still play for the Celtics. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And they said no.
His answer was Mr. Auerbach. Red will take care of that. He said, Red will answer that.
Okay.
So I got either a letter or a phone call from Red saying the answer is no.
No. And did you get along with Red at all? Because I heard he was a real tough guy to get along with.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I didn't have much dealing with him.
Okay.
You have to remember that in those days, Red Auerbach was the only coach. He was the one guy over in that team.
Right.
If he had an assistant, I don't know who it was. So it was the money was not big. The future was not, without television, there was not much of a future, you know.
Right.
But of course, today you can make your whole life's career with a couple of years in the NBA, but not then, no.
No. Okay. So then when
They
they
were selling insurance, by the way, at the same time.
sure, a lot of people had jobs in the off season. Okay. So did you know already at that time that you were exploring the idea of going to the seminary? Was that something that was in your mind already?
In the back of my mind.
Okay.
In the back, I would say, we had to go to mass 3 times a week here.
Okay.
As I mentioned in that documentary, people that talked about Holy Cross, they thought we were seminary,
Right.
They thought we were college. But anyway, what I did, I guess, coming up at my age 13, I'm starting with the Jesuits through high school, through college. My whole year is connected with the Jesuits, And their message is a very strong spiritual message, of course.
Yes.
And a message that challenges the young people, both academically and spiritually. So
One that I have myself. Being a St. Peter's Prep grad and a Marquette University person, so I know the Jesuit life very, very well. But I didn't want to go to the seminary, though, Father. No, that wasn't in my life. So were you still in college when you started to think about the seminary, or were you already done by that point?
No, I was already finished.
Okay.
I didn't go near the seminary when I was in college. No.
Oh, okay. So then, how did that all come about, and where did you go to school in the seminary? Where were you sent to?
Okay. Now here comes my basketball career.
Okay.
Here we go. We have a system, as you remember, at the prep. We had Scholastic.
Yes.
Maybe I don't know who was the Scholastic.
Fred Pellegrini was my Scholastic when I was there, and Tom Moss were the two Scholastics when I was there.
Okay. So when I was 2 years in the division. Everybody takes 2 years, but I skipped 3 years because I had 2 years of Latin and Greek here at Holy Cross, and I had 1 year of philosophy. So I skipped 3 years, and I went right into 2 years of philosophy. So 2 years division, 2 years philosophy, and then we go to become scholastic, teach some school. Well, I had signed up if they needed missionaries, I would do that. So sure enough, I got the call going to the Philippines.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah. So not only that, but I'm going to Zamboanga in the Philippines. Now, if you look on the map of the Philippines,
I have no idea.
Down south toward the Moro Sea.
Okay.
Way down Zamboanga. We had seven schools in the Philippines. Manila was our big university school, but we had schools in Zamboanga, Cebu, Davao, all these little towns, many what we call barrios. Okay. So I didn't realize at the time, but the Scholastic, whom I was replacing, he was a New Yorker also. He was the coach of the college and the high school basketball teams at the end of the day of the Zamboanga. And that's what I was doing. I didn't realize it, but I was being sent there to take his place. So I did. And I show up there. Now we're going to have 3 years of this. I show up there, and Father Superior calls me in and says, well, Earle, your schedule will be as follows. 5 classes in the morning, high school, seniors. 2 English classes, A and 4A, 4B. 2 church social teachings, 4A, 4B. And 1 class of Latin with 4A. 5 classes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. And then he says to me, and this is the God down the truth, he says to me, now that'll see you up to coach the college team from 1 to 3 o'clock. I go, what? And then the high school team from 3:30 to 5:30. That was my schedule, no kidding. I said, well, what have I got myself into here, Well, you make...
And what was the talent level of these basketball players that you were working with? They couldn't have been too good, were they?
The kids were pretty good for a barrio team. You play anybody from Manila, they were very good.
Yeah? Okay.
You play anybody from your own area.
You would think the Philippine people aren't basketball players, but that's I guess that's my naivete. I wouldn't think of them.
Naivete is right.
Yeah.
It's 2 things they love. It's music and the basketball.
I'll be darned. See, I didn't know that.
Well, they were good in the 30s in the Olympics, but then other countries grew bigger people. They stayed relatively small physically, so they were
And now they're good for cooking and boxing. Those are the two things that Philippine people are they're very, very loyal people. I know. Yeah.
But it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much over those years. I went 3 years there, then I went back to Manila, and I played in a local league, and I also played as part of a touring group for Philippine Airlines, who would go on weekends. We go on weekends to the towns, the barrios where the plane flew into, from Manila. So guys signed me up to do that, not for pay, but for experience of visiting and so on. So I played a lot of basketball.
Yeah, but you must have dominated. You must have been the dominant player. You must have been like the Kareem Jabbar of the Philippines,
Somewhat like that.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Until I reached age 39, I said, I have to check what this late.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah, no, trust me, you were over 39 when you were the principal at prep, and you were still kicking our behinds. That's for darn sure. So, and you were over 39 then. So, anyway, all right. So then you were in how long all told were you in the Philippines for?
7 years.
7 years.
Scholastic. Then I came back and went to theology, studied theology at Western College.
Okay.
And
Where's Western College located?
Yeah, and 1 year studies at Woodstock for I was going to teach religious studies in Manila, so they sent me for a year of special college preparation studies.
Okay.
And then I went to Philippines, Manila, the second time. Manila was a world of difference from Damboa.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Both of them were great experiences on different levels. So, So I did a lot of basketball for the first 4 years back there.
And you did a lot of coaching too, huh?
And I did. I coached. Yeah, I did. I coached both the high school and the college team in my scholastic days. So I was only 27, 28 years of age.
Okay.
21 to 25 to 20. Yeah, 25 to 26. I guess I was about 26 years of age when I coached that. So I was in pretty good shape then.
Okay. Did you ever question your calling at that point? Did you ever say to yourself, "What in the world did I get myself into?" Or did you say, "Okay, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I really was. This is what I was born to do"?
Yeah, well, it was the latter more than that.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I didn't question what I was doing. The question was that I'd be able to do it.
Okay.
I think I got my first stark realization of what I had signed up for when the superior told me you got 5 classes in the morning and 2 in the afternoon.
And then you got to coach 2 teams. Yeah, and then you had to coach 2 teams. So, all right. So, when did you come back to the United States?
I came back in 70. Let's see. I think it was 70 or 71, 1970 or 71. I came back and studied 1 year at Berkeley.
Okay.
Berkeley. And it was at that point when I got a call from the Provincial of New York, Joe Brown, if I would consider coming to be the principal of St. Peter's Prep. And I said, Joe, I said to the Philippines, I'm in another world, so far away from Jersey City, and so far away from high school administration that I'd have to begin all over. But I thought the Father York was pushing me too. He was pushing Father Brown to get me in. So that's how I had to go back there. I went back there. I said, okay. The missionary apostolate changed a lot. We used to go over the group of American teaching schools. Now, by the time I was leaving there, they would let you leave. Everybody would leave unless you could teach chemistry or physics or specialty.
Okay.
Because it was going to be Philippinized. The nationalism was strong, and rightfully so. And when I was over there, we had the first Filipino president of the Ateneo, the university, or first or second, but it was a time when the Americans were fading out of the picture as they should have, and we did, and turned the whole profits over to Filipinos, and that's the way it is today.
Okay. All right. So when you come back to St. Peter's Prep, your alma mater, and what kind of a thrill was that for you to be able to be the principal of where you went to high school?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I felt very comfortable, to tell you the truth.
And like I said, you had a chance to kick. You had a chance to kick this really chubby kid out in 1976, and you didn't do it. He was, he was able to survive and graduated in '79. So you had a chance, you know.
Well, you didn't do anything bad, but I
Oh no. I was the model citizen. There's no question. What was I going to say? But was it a thrill for you to be back at prep? And things had changed a lot since you had been there in the '50s. But
Yeah, it had changed a lot, but it was not a thrill. I wouldn't say it was a thrill. I'd say it was a challenge,
okay,
and one that I felt I owed so much to that school. You know, I said I'll do the best I can. I look at kids that are there now, and I'm saying to myself, I was that kid in school. I was this kid before.
right,
And get on a bus, the kids shoot notes. So from that point of view, it was I enjoyed it, but it was a challenge. You know,
okay,
new courses, new programs, new teachers, and I didn't have any quote educational, if you will, administrative educational background. You know, you didn't go to school and learn how to be an administrator.
right.
Kind of played it by ear, but your own personal knowledge and background. I had enough good friends at prep to know who's a wise guy and who's not. So I could make the distinction pretty well.
Good. Well, I luckily I wasn't one of those wise guys because I never got called into your office. So that was the good thing about that. So you ended up leaving in '77. I correct, right?
No, 76, I think it was.
76. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you came straight up to Holy Cross in '76, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So now your entire service to the Jesuits were at your high school and your high school alma mater, and then you went to your collegiate alma mater. And how many people have that type of an opportunity? It really must have been that's a blessing. There's no question. And then and since you've been back in Worcester now for 30, oh God, it's almost 40 years. Over 40 years. 45 years, right? 45 years? All right. What are some of the tasks that you've had since you've been back in Worcester? Some of the tasks, some of the jobs that you've had working in the College Holy Cross. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I came up here, I was an associate dean in the dean of students office, and I became dean of students, and I became vice president for student affairs. I was in charge of dormitories and things like that.
Okay.
So I kind of stayed in student services, student affairs areas, and then moved out that way. As a vice president, I was pretty close to the upper administration, so I had some input in the various problems and programs we had.
Beautiful. And incredibly, it's 2021, and you're still active and you're still working, correct?
Right.
Okay. And you're in admissions now, though, right?
I'm in admissions, correct.
Okay. And how much do you enjoy that?
Well, it's interesting. It gives me a platform, to tell you the truth. Keeps me busy, gives me a platform, and I feel I can still do reasonably well with the job. I don't have any unusual demands upon me.
Okay.
So my time is nicely spread out. Yeah, I would say it's a good end for me, if you will.
All right.
Not thinking of an end now, but I mean, I'm just thinking, well.
No, you sound too good to be talking about an end. You're doing very well. You don't mind if I ask, how old are you now?
Right now, I'm 88.
88. God bless. 88.
That's only the beginning.
Yeah, no, you're doing incredibly well for 88. So.
So far, thank you.
Yeah. And do you still pay attention to sports and athletics? Do you go to many Holy Cross games? Do you pay attention to what's going on at St. Peter's?
Yeah, well, Jim, I go to all the football games here.
Okay.
And last year I went to all the basketball games, but there's a certain amount of tension here with regard to athletics, basketball. Last year we were 3-29 here now.
Ouch.
And then 3-20.
Ouch.
And 8 kids transferred. I'm trying to find out why or how they did, because they may have been told you lost your scholarship. They brought in different people, so that's a different environment. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about, supporting a team with they transferred or sent out kids that re-transferred. But anyway, I do enjoy it. I enjoy watching it, but I can't be supportive of a kind of a program that's a bit of a rogue program, if you will.
Yeah.
Accommodating modern day thinking on academics. I'm an old time in terms of when the 4 years are over, kid, the ball is empty and you got to go to work.
That's it. Go earn your keep. That's for sure. So.
Exactly.
All right. But
some of these guys, they get lost in their athletic careers. They're not going any place after CD,
Yeah. No. So. All right, but when you look back at it, Father, how incredible of a life and a career that you've had, then when you think about it, it all stemmed and began in sports. And how wild of a ride has it rided? I'll try again. How wild of a ride has it been for you, considering that your life started in athletics?
Well, athletics was always for me the dessert at the end of the meal.
Right.
And I knew I had obligations with regard to academics and other things, serious things. So I think if I've had any blessings, I haven't had many blessings, but especially the clarity to understand that life is short, and it is short, and you got only so many opportunities to do good things for other people, to help others, and to put your life on the line for certain things, get values that you cherish, that you've learned as a St. Peter's prep, as a Holy Cross. So many good things, and some tough things too. Sacrifice you have to make. Things like right now, the pandemic, we can't move. I'm more like a monk right now.
Right.
So I've been blessed, and I understand I've been blessed with good health for such a long time, and been able to do the things I like to do. I like to play golf. I still do.
Good.
You lose 20 yards on your drive every year. You get it the same, but anyway. So I'm grateful for the prep. I love the prep, and Holy Cross also, both in a different way, but different parts of your life, different times in your life that you need certain things. I think, if anything, maybe the prep brought me out of childhood into close to manhood.
Exactly. I feel the same way. I feel the same exact way. But St. Peter's Prep brought you to another calling, because that's a totally different lifestyle. And unfortunately, those numbers are dwindling. There's not many young men that make the decision to become Jesuits, and so you deserve all the credit in the world for being able to make that decision. Oh God, what has it got to be close to 70 years ago already, right? Yeah.
Well, when I finished prep, when I started prep, World War II was just ending,
Right.
And so that had a psychological effect on every one of us, of every kid my age or around our time. We learned about all these cities of Europe and Asia and China and the Japanese and the Philippines. We learned it through the war effort, and we were at war and people were dying, and the whole world was at war. You say, wow, life is not so easy. And so you think, seriously, many monasteries are filled up usually about 10 or 15 years after a big war. They diminish after that. But that's part of the psychology, and I was part of that psychology. I was just a kid when we were in World War II. When I graduated from grammar school, the war just ended, and then when I was still, as a matter of fact, when I was a scholastic at St. Peter's, down in Scholastic rather in Zamboanga, the Japanese ships, now this would have been 1958 or 59. The Japanese ships would come into port. They the Japanese sailors would not get off the ship because the wounds of war were so very, very open.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah, and so, you're that close to all those things in the war and the years and so on, the suffering and the loss of life and everything. So it was not, you weren't in a bed of roses if you didn't go to seminary brought you into reality, I think.
Absolutely. Well, Father, I really appreciate you taking this time to talk to me about your life and your career. It's absolutely fantastic, and a great career. And this was an absolute thrill for me to hear your story firsthand. And I look forward to seeing you again when the pandemic goes away. I hope that you get the chance either to come down here or we go up there or something. But I would love to be able to cross paths with you again somewhere down the future. And thanks so very much for sharing your story with me today, Father.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And by the way, I'm going to call Togo now.
Okay.
Should I give him your phone number or something?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna call you right back after I hang up and disconnect. Okay, so I'm gonna call you right back.
Okay, I'll wait here for your call.
Okay, thanks so much, Father. Okay, bye now.
You're welcome. Bye now. Bye-bye.
And that was my special guest today, the Reverend Earle Markey, S.J., who had a very long and storied career in sports and in athletics, and first as an athlete at St. Peter's Prep, and then to the College of Holy Cross in a great era. And at 88 years old, he's still going strong in the admissions office at the College of Holy Cross in Worcester. I'd like to thank my special executive producer, Johnny Haig, who without him this wouldn't take place. And Johnny and I suffered a very grave loss just this last week when Johnny's father, my nephew, John P. Haig, God rest his soul, passed away. So we dedicate this broadcast to the memory of my nephew John, who passed away just this last week. And just as a reminder again that the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you by Stan Sports Center, which is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stans has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at stansportsctr.com. That's stansportsctr.com. And check them out on social media for their latest creations. Stan Sports Center is located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number 201-798-4466. And don't forget, if you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast, you get a 10% discount on anything that's retail in the store. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this week's special edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and we will have another edition for you next week. Thanks for listening. Take care now.